Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of week 5 of the Johnny Depp vs Amber Heard trial, which returns after a week break, and we will follow days 16, 17, 18 and 19. This covers all testimonies and statements for the period of Monday the 16th of May through to Thursday the 19th of May 2022. And you can check out my coverage of the previous 4 weeks of the trial, and I'll leave some links within the description. So we'll get straight into it then, and in terms of hype and anticipation and traction, to use movie analogies, this is very much the big blockbuster element of the trial. This of course centered around the cross-examination of Amber Heard, but prior to that, when we started off on day 16, Amber continued her testimony when she was speaking very much about the first instance of abuse that she allegedly suffered within 2012 in the early stages of their relationship. And we also noticed how she changed her look very much as to the previous day's testimony from the previous week. Here she just dressed a lot more sharper and looked far more confident than the previous weeks where she appeared to be very frail and vulnerable. She once again talked about all of the alleged incidents when Johnny had abused her. She later on mentioned the reason for them recording one another was to get to the heart of communication issues. In terms of Johnny's testimony, where we heard previous audios where the word couch was used, Amber stated that this was a signal for them to stop fighting and try to reconcile with one another. She then continued to show more photos of the supposed scars on her forearm when she attended movie premieres. Again, a lot of people are asking where exactly were the medical records for these injuries, and we did hear another audio clip where Johnny was shouting at her, telling her to stop being authoritative and being like a school teacher. And that argument related to the earlier conversations of both people allowing the recording of one another. She then referred to Johnny cutting himself and putting a knife close to his chest, which we had heard in the previous audio clips during Johnny's testimony. And then we heard another audio where Amber once again admitted to punching Johnny. And to be honest, a lot of the audio clips that we were hearing have been heard previously, but I think this was a tactic by Amber's team in order to get ahead of the cross-examination, which they knew would be brought up multiple times from Johnny's team. And it was during these clips when Amber talked about the disparity of many of their fights, and that when she was punching Johnny, it was much more of a reactive motion. Now from Amber's perspective, she stated that she was the one who was running away, but again that very much contradicted as to what we heard from the audio. We then again talked about the infamous pooping on the bed incident, where hilariously Amber blamed it on the dog having bowel control, so you can really make of that what you will. And I think overall at this stage, Amber's testimony was really dragging, and she was really starting on to put the tears again when asked about the overall reason for why the couple got divorced. She also confirmed that in terms of the op-ed article, that she didn't publish the article herself, and she stated that she didn't even check the headline, let alone the content of the article. And again, I find this very much hard to believe given the nature of the article and the fact that she was very much trying to gain a lot of publicity by standing against domestic violence. So the direct came to a close 3/4 throughout the day, and then we came to at last what everybody had been waiting for, and that was the cross-examination from Johnny Depp's team. How far would they go in questioning Amber over the evidence that we had heard previously? Would she break down? Would she say something that would hurt her case? And how would she react as Johnny Depp's teams would press her a lot on the overall statements? And without question, the cross-examination was probably the highlight of the whole trial itself. The cross was handled by lawyer Camille Vasquez, who certainly didn't hang about late on within this day, going straight into the domestic violence claims. She made instant references to the fact that Johnny tended to wear a lot of rings all the time, very much suggesting that if he had punched Amber, it would have been very visible on her face due to the rings that Johnny was wearing. And during the cross, we went through all of the photos of the supposed injuries that Amber suffered. Many of these were at movie events, such as the Mordecai movie premiere, and we were very much trying to establish a pattern that despite all of the experiences that Amber was discussing, the very next day or the next couple of days after where she was appearing at a certain event, there were no clear signs of any of the injuries that she was detailing during her experiences. We then referred to the well-known appearance on the James Corden show way back in December 2016, where again there appeared to be no signs of injury following the recent claims of abuse. We then showed further photos that Amber had presented around this time of the appearance, once again showing very little signs of any abuse or injury. Now Camille brought up the question that all of us were asking whilst hearing Amber's testimony, and that was why didn't she seek any medical attention, and why weren't there any doctor records or nurse records of the injuries that she had suffered. Now, Amber had replied that she didn't seek any medical attention because she didn't deem it necessary. So, but again, when you go over the real graphic nature of what Amber had described, surely some sort of medical attention would have been required. Now, the excuse here was that she wanted to protect Johnny's career, but at the same time, an individual has to maintain their own health, and because Amber was talking about cases of sexual and graphic assault, she surely would have had to go to the doctors, if anything, just to maintain her own individual health, let alone protect the status of Johnny. This is why, me personally, I just cannot believe that throughout any of these incidents that Amber didn't go to a doctor to get certain attention. And I think comparatively that will hurt Amber's case, because when we look at Johnny's testimonies, he had numerous amounts of doctors and nurses all coming to his aid and confirming that they saw no injuries or signs of abuse incurred by Amber. We then carried on by viewing more photos that Amber was taking of Johnny whilst he was sleeping or passed out, and Camille was very much suggesting the lack of devotion to Johnny, in a sense that why was she taking all of these photos? Surely she would want to make sure that Johnny was alright or call the hospital. Now, Amber had replied to this, stating that the reason that she took the photos is that she wanted to use them in a reference point later on if the couple got to an argument, so she could show what Johnny got like when he was taking too many drugs or alcohol. Now, in my personal opinion, I believe if you have a partner and you think they're either comatose or passed out, the first thing you would do would call a hospital and get them checked over rather than taking photos. We also alluded to the fact that Amber was texting her friends of these photos of Johnny being passed out, so again that throws a lot of doubt as to how much she was indeed devoted to it. We then got to the most intense part of the cross-examination during this day, when Camille challenged Amber on the donations that weren't made to the ACLU, that's the American Civil Liberty Union, alongside the charity hospital as well. If you remember, these were the two charity functions that Amber promised that she would make a full donation of £7 million, which is what she received from her settlement of divorce. And we've always asked, why didn't Amber make these payments? And we already went through these reasons during Johnny's testimonies. We played again a video clip that when Amber announced on a television interview that she had donated the entire $7 million to charity. And shortly after this, Camille outlined all of the documentation which confirmed that Amber had received all of the settlement in full by February 2018. We then confirmed that Amber has stated that she had donated all of this settlement in October 2018, and then we established that the op-ed article was published in 2018, and then in 2019 Johnny had sued for defamation. So the timeline that Camille was establishing was that why didn't Amber pay the full settlement figure, since it was around 13 months after she received the money that Johnny had sued her for defamation. So that completely contradicted Amber's excuse for not donating the money because Johnny had sued her. Amber was constantly stating that she had pledged the $7 million, but Camille had rightly confirmed that pledging something doesn't mean that you actually donate it. And this is when we got one of the biggest flashpoints, when we had certain back and forth between Amber and Camille. Amber was trying to excuse herself by saying that she pledged completely the donation, and Camille was being very sharp and cutting her off and stating that she didn't believe that pledging was defined as donating money, and confirmed once again that Amber didn't actually donate any of the money to the charities. So again, this is very damaging for Amber because it paints a certain dishonesty about her character. Once again, if she's been dishonest about making payments to charity functions, what else is she being dishonest about? And maybe what she stated in the op-ed article isn't 100% true. And things got very touchy between both Amber and Camille, but Camille stood very firm, and it was this exchange between the two individuals that was played all over social media. Many people really thought that it exposed Amber, and at the same time we saw heaps of praise and adulation for Camille Vasquez all over social media, not only from fans but from also legal experts who praised her in the way that she performed her cross-examination. She was very sharp and straight to the point. She wasn't overly hostile and still gave Amber plenty of time to answer her questions. So this was definitely a big moment for Johnny Depp. The cross-examination then continued into day 17, where we very much centred on the Australia incident, where Johnny of course lost part of his finger in the bathroom incident after a bottle was thrown at him. They once again played the audio of the arguments around this incident, where Amber confirmed once again that she was pushing Johnny and knocking down the bathroom doors as Johnny was trying to escape from her. And once again, we had a very intense moment between both Amber and Camille, where Camille was stating that Amber had knocked on 5 doors and Amber was responding by stating that she only knocked on 1 door. And it was this stage of the examination where Camille was going in very hard on Amber, stating that Amber really wasn't scared about Johnny, and that was because that she really wasn't abused by him. And to give credit here, Amber for the most part answered these questions very well. We then had another very damning audio involving a conversation between Johnny and Amber, which referred to Amber screaming at Johnny in front of his kids, and Amber accusing Johnny of using his kids in order to put her in a bad light. Again, Camille was raising this, calling into question the integrity of Amber's character. We then played all of the clips that we heard previously when Amber confirmed that she hit Johnny, telling him to grow up and that he was a baby. Once again giving the suggestion that it was Amber who was indeed abusing Johnny rather than Johnny abusing her. Camille then played footage of the deposition that Amber made from 2016 when she initially released the restraining order, and we saw the footage of her giving her deposition where she made a mistake by letting it slip that she had indeed told TMZ of the divorce notification and that she had indeed shown them footage of Johnny Depp slamming cabinets within the kitchen, which we had seen previously within the trial. Now, Camille then brought up Amber's previous relationships, and we knew this was coming because if you had followed this trial on social media, many were pinpointing the previous incident when Amber during her testimony had mentioned Kate Moss, who as we all know was a previous partner of Johnny, and this very much opened the door to more criticism because it was initially agreed when this trial began that there would be no references to either ex-partners of both individuals, but by mentioning Kate Moss, Amber had now opened that door so Johnny's team could bring up any previous relationships that she had before she met Johnny. And Camille certainly did this when she brought up the fact that it was reported in the press that Amber had indeed struck her ex-girlfriend in the airport in 2009. Now, Amber tried to respond by stating that this was part of a smear campaign, but Camille wasn't having it. Now, I've got to say, I don't think that they quite pressed on this incident enough, especially when you look at the jubilation that we saw from Johnny Depp's team when they saw that Kate Moss had been mentioned. And I just think they could have pressed a bit more just to show and establish an overall pattern of behaviour, that Amber was the person who was abusing people rather than being the abused victim. And that was when we came to the end of the cross-examination, and straight away Elaine Bredenhurst came back with the redirect of Amber's team, and we noticed straight away the demeanour of Amber has suddenly changed. Now she had reverted very much back to the vulnerable, frail personality that we saw earlier on during this testimony, and again we were getting the fake tears and the emotional demonstrating to the jury, and to be honest, the redirect here was mostly useless, and it wasn't really adding anything because we were just going over evidence that we had heard already. And what was a very noticeable moment during this redirect was how Camille was constantly objecting during the line of questioning. It was during the redirect that Elaine was trying to explain why didn't Amber seek medical attention for her injuries, and Camille was literally objecting every 1 to 2 minutes, stating that the questions were very leading or hearsay or speculation or outside the scope, just completely disrupting the flow of the redirect. And I think the whole reason for the redirect was to try and kind of recover what was exposed during the cross-examination, but it didn't work, with most objections being sustained by the judge. And really it made Amber's team look very disorganised and uncertain, with Elaine really struggling at times to get her questions across and very much giving that impression that they weren't really sure of what they were doing. And when we came to the end of this day, it was very noticed that Amber had stormed out of the courtroom on her own, not interacting with her legal team, whilst Johnny's team all embraced together, signalling a great deal for them, and social media caught the moment when he hugged Camille Vasquez, who, as I mentioned before, really stood out during the cross-examination. And it's always very telling at the end of the day when the legal team comes together and almost celebrates that they've had a good day done, and if the other team is very much looking disjointed and separated. Now, I won't state that this day was very critical in maybe tipping the scales for a verdict for Johnny, because again it was more painted towards discrediting Amber as a dishonest individual as opposed to proving whether the op-ed article actually had caused damage to his overall career. But once again, if you damage the character of the individual, that will play very well within the jury and put more doubts into their mind as to whether Amber is actually telling the truth or not about the alleged incidents. Now after this, we did get the next 2 days, which featured a whole multitude of witnesses for Amber, and to be honest with you, I'm not going to go too detailed into this, and the reason for this is because the majority of the witnesses just confirms the same thing, that they saw many examples of bad behaviour of Johnny, that he was drunk, that he was taking drugs, that he was always late for work. We had all of these confirmations from former agents and attorneys, and it just didn't add anything because we'd already established this during the testimony of Johnny. Now, I do understand that Amber's team had to collate witnesses and evidence for themselves, and also they were just trying to reiterate again that if Johnny was such a problematic character, then maybe he was more capable of abuse, but we had already replayed through that narrative, so it didn't really have any more impact going through all of these multiple witnesses. And I think what also hurt was the fact that many of these witnesses were seen through video depositions, which is never good because they seem to be very prolonged and clumsily edited, and I can imagine that the jury was bored for a lot of the times hearing these testimonies. Now, there were a couple of witnesses that could potentially go against Johnny, and I think most noticeably it was from hearing Amber's sister, Whitney, who specifically talked about the argument in 2015 during the staircase within the penthouse, which of course involved the three of them, and Whitney stated that she was trying to break up an argument between both Johnny and Amber, and when she got in the way, Johnny had pushed her, and then Amber had responded by throwing punches at Johnny. So to an extent, this had corroborated with the fact that we knew that Amber had thrown certain punches on the staircase that even Amber had admitted to herself. But once again, the problem you have is that because this testimony is coming from Amber's sister, it could be seen as to being biased. This is actually the first witness who had come forward and stated that Johnny had actually abused Amber. So this could be very damaging if the jury is convinced by this, because as we all know, all Amber has to prove is that Johnny abused her once, and that will be enough to win the case and confirm that the op-ed article wasn't defamatory. Now, we also heard from Amber's makeup artist Melanie Igessias, who said that she had indeed cover-up bruises of Amber and also a busted lip that we saw, of course, from the previous photos. She also mentioned the torn strands from Amber's scalp. Again, this was confirmed in Amber's testimonies. But again, she confirms that she hadn't seen any abuse shown by Johnny towards Amber. So, as far as she was concerned, these injuries could have come from anywhere. So on the one hand, it does tie up with what Amber was describing in terms of her photographs, but again, we cannot confirm to the actual source of these overall supposed injuries. Now, one very interesting highlight was the testimony from renowned actress Ellen Barkin, who had a previous relationship with Johnny way back in the 90s, and during her video disposition, she confirmed that Johnny was very controlling and jealous, and that there was one incident where he threw a wine bottle across the hotel room, and she also stated that he was drunk a lot during their time together. So once again, this already confirms what we had already heard previously throughout the trial. Now, of course, Amber's team were trying to establish a pattern of behaviour regarding abuse from Johnny, but it does question if Ellen had suffered any real instance of abuse, why didn't she come forward herself? And once again, she also confirmed that she hadn't actually incurred any abuse from Johnny physically. So we wound down the last day of the trial for this week with multiple testimonies, and to be honest, it was very hard to get through because again, there was very much of a prolonged and very mundane feel to all of the testimonies that were given. Again, we understand that the legal team are trying to get as many witnesses as possible to try and build their case, but minus the testimonies given from Whitney, I don't believe there was any real substantial cases that could have hurt Johnny or could have indeed improved Amber's position overall. So in many ways, days 18 and 19 were quite the come down from the heightened adrenaline levels that what we saw during the cross-examination from the first 2 days. If I was to say who was the favourite in terms of winning the verdict, I would still stick with Johnny because I do believe that cross-examination was very damning, not necessarily proving the defamatory in terms of the op-ed article, but very much damaging the integrity and the honesty of Amber, and once again very much planting the seeds within the jury as to whether Amber can actually be trusted, and if there are certain holes or stories regarding her testimonies, then would she actually make lies within the op-ed article itself? I also think that the fact that Amber had no medical records or testimonies from doctors or nurses to confirm her injuries also was very damaging towards her, because again, all she would have needed was one nurse confirming that she had these injuries, and I think that would have been very damaging against Johnny. But the fact that she's got no confirmation from any professional experts, once again throws a suggestion that maybe she's not completely telling the truth So that's it overall really in terms of my overall review and breakdown of week 5 of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who do you believe at this stage is coming across as the more favourable person to get the verdict? Do you think Amber's reputation is so damaged at this point, even if she does get a verdict, it won't really matter because in the court of public opinion, people are already siding with Johnny. We have of course heard various rumours and speculation that Warner Brothers are already cutting down the amount of screen time that Amber has within Aquaman 2. So have things got so bad that it doesn't matter regardless of the verdict, that maybe they will indeed cut her out of the movie completely? We'll wait and see overall, but let me know what you think in the comments. And also, if you are enjoying my overall weekly summaries of this trial and you'd like to see me continue going into the final week and also the closing statements, then let me know in the comments as well. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.